Just a few months ago, we thought open source models were 3 to 6 months behind closed source models, or at least that was DeepSeek's reasonable estimate in its V4 paper, but shortly after, this new model called Kimi K3 just blew this assumption completely out of the water. This release from Moonshot AI closed the gap that we once thought would be impossible for open labs to overcome. And can you believe that they just casually dropped a state-of-the-art multimodal open weights model that is near equivalent to Claude's Fable 5 and even beating it on some benchmarks by a decent margin, literally moonshotting singular training runs and beating trillion-dollar companies, while the US is busy running the narrative about Anthropic releasing the Fable AI super weapon. Chinese labs kind of just dropped this monster of a model into the wild by open sourcing it, and we're like, yep, you guys can deal with it. I think the most crazy thing about this model is not just its performance, but also the immense size of this model. It has a staggering 2.8 trillion parameters, which is 75% more parameters than the previous largest open source model, that is DeepSeek V4. And can you believe the fact that the third best model in the world right now is open weights? So in today's video, let us find out how exactly they made this insanely powerful model, what new AI architecture designs they used, and how they have successively scaled up the model to compete at the frontier level. And before I dive into it, as frontier open weights are getting progressively better and more useful, it is getting more and more appealing to host or even train your models on these weights to customize your experience, right? And for that, you will need top tier cloud GPU server that is specialized at running or training LLMs, like today's sponsor, Verda, which is a full stack AI cloud built for the entire model lifecycle, from GPU instances and instant clusters to serverless containers. Unlike general purpose cloud providers trying to support AI compute like an afterthought, Verda is built specifically for AI workloads, from toy experiments all the way to large scale training, high throughput inference, and agentic AI serving. Built by people who also work with actual AI systems, their infrastructure is designed around how AI teams train, serve, and deploy models. On the hardware side, Verda gives you access to powerful NVIDIA GPUs like B300s, along with NVLink, InfiniBand, and fast NVMe storage for workloads where throughput and interconnect performance really matter. They're also an official NVIDIA preferred partner, which means closer alignment with NVIDIA's latest hardware roadmap. Verda has already opened early access for NVIDIA GB300 NVL72 Blackwell Ultra clusters, which is some of the most powerful AI systems available today. For smaller experiments, you can spin up on-demand GPU instances or use spot instances at up to 3 times lower pricing, with the trade-off that capacity can be reclaimed, so they're the best for interruptible workloads. And if you're doing serious training or fine-tuning, Verda also offers instant clusters with self-service access to 16 to 128 GPUs connected through InfiniBand. That's exactly the kind of setup you want when multi-GPU performance actually matters. Then when your model is ready to deploy, you can move into production with auto-scaling serverless containers, making the path from experiments to inference a lot less painful. So whether you're experimenting, building agentic AI systems, fine-tuning models, or deploying inference at scale, Verda gives you AI infrastructure built for speed, power, and performance without the usual scaling chaos. So check out Verda now using the link down in the description and use code bycloud50, which provides $50 worth of compute credit for just $5. And thanks again to Verda for sponsoring this video. Anyways, by the time that this video is out, I'm pretty sure most of you guys are already kind of familiar with Kimi K3's performance, so I'll just talk about it briefly. Kimi K3 is basically on the same level with GPT 5.5 Xi for coding agents, number 1 on front-end coding, number 3 on DeepSuite, which is a private coding benchmark, on par with Claude Fable on Terminal Bench 2.1, not to mention it achieved a huge jump in token efficiency compared to its previous release, beating the Claude models by at least 1-fold, and sits just slightly behind GPT 5.6. It also achieved second in realistic business workflows, and all in all, you can just tell that they are built fully for coding or long horizon tasks. But I think the most impressive thing about this release is how we are past the stage of just showing AI running its own training code or its kernel as a showcase, because this time they have their model design its own hardware chip for itself. So in a single 48-hour autonomous run, K3 built, optimized, and verified the chip using open source tools on a NAND 45nm library, and within 4mm squared, the chip Kimi K3 designed packs 1.46 million standard cells, 0.277 megabytes of SRAM, and an int4 MAC array with fused dequantization, and it was able to achieve 8,700 tokens per second decode throughput in simulation, serving a nano model. But I think the clearest sign of just how frontier this model is comes from its long context reasoning performance. It completely topped the benchmark despite using a new attention mechanism developed in-house while still remaining relatively cheap, which is at least 3 times cheaper than Fable 5. So yeah, I take it back when I said about DeepSeek being the only open lab capable of designing entirely new attention mechanisms for frontier models, because this attention mechanism called KDA, which is short for Kimi Delta Attention, has actually matured into a reliable attention variant, as you can see from the model's performance. And to understand why KDA is so impressive, we first need to look at what it is doing under the hood. With standard softmax attention, every token can directly compare itself against the previous tokens in the context, right? This is extremely expressive because the model can retrieve a specific piece of information directly from anywhere in the sequence. But the cost grows quadratically with context length, and this is already expensive for a normal conversation. So for coding agents that might process a huge code repository, repeated tool calls, or just a very long reasoning trajectory, the attention cost becomes one of the main bottlenecks. And this is why most models now look towards alternatives like sparse attention, which DeepSeek is using for V4, or linear attention, which is what KDA is based on. So instead of retaining every previous key and value individually, linear attention compresses the sequence into a fixed size recurrent state, which means when a new token arrives, the model updates the state and then reads from it. So the memory needed for each linear attention layer does not keep increasing with the context length in the same way as a regular KV cache. However, the issue is that linear attention has historically just been a terrible mechanism. You can see my full breakdown in this older video, but in short, since the entire context is compressed into a finite state, different key value associations can interfere with each other. The model also loses the ability to precisely retrieve every individual token from the original sequence, so its prior forms are not that appealing to use since it often underperforms full attention even on short context language modeling. I would say its efficiency advantage is the only thing that kept it relevant. But KDA is not the standard linear attention we know of. It is built on top of the delta rule. In basic linear attention, every new key value pair is continuously added into the recurrent state, but the delta rule instead checks what the value the current state already predicts for that key. It then compares that prediction against the new value and updates the state using the difference. So the update is based on the error or the delta between what the memory currently returns and what it should return. Hence the name delta attention. But even with the delta rule, there is still another problem. Some information would still become outdated. So gated delta net, which KDA is based on, adds a forget gate that controls how much of the previous state should remain before the new update is written. The only issue is that gated delta net uses one forgetting rate for an entire attention head. So every feature channel inside that head is decayed together, even though they could be storing information with completely different useful lifespans. And you can probably guess by now the main change in KDA is surprisingly straightforward. Instead of giving the entire head one scalar forget gate, KDA gives every channel its own independent decay value, which means one channel can rapidly remove temporary information while another channel can preserve its state over a much longer sequence. The model can therefore control the memory lifetime at the feature level instead of the head level, giving the fixed size recurrent state much more capacity to separate short-term and long-term information without making the state itself larger. To sum that up simply, KDA is just the same compression mechanism, but it stores and organizes the compression data a lot better than the standard linear attention. However, it's not like KDA has magically solved every problem that linear attention has. It cannot guarantee the same exact retrieval ability as full attention because the original keys and values are no longer all individually available, and that is a huge problem. So just like every other modern linear attention model, they had to make it a hybrid attention architecture where they interleave 3 KDA layers with one full MLA layer. According to their ablations, this 3:1 ratio gave them the best trade-off between model quality and decoding throughput, with them basically reducing KV cache usage by up to 75% since only 1 out of 4 attention layers need to store the conventional full attention cache, while achieving up to 6 times decoding throughput for a 1 million contexts compared to the standard attention baseline. These results actually came from their first KDA paper published in November last year called Kimi Linear, where they were experimenting on a 48 billion parameter MOE with 3 billion active parameters trained on 1.4 trillion tokens. What's even crazier is that Kimi Linear did not just match the full attention model. In their paper, it actually beat standard attention. And not just on simple performance benchmarks like MMLU Pro, where Kimi Linear scored nearly 4 points higher than MLA, on the 128,000 long context benchmark called Ruler, Kimi Linear also beat it by 3 points, while getting around 4 times the decoding acceleration. Then on 1 million token context, its time per output token dropped from 11.48 milliseconds to 1.84 milliseconds, giving a 6.3 times decoding speedup. And the quality gain also appeared during RL2, which made KDA the perfect candidate for scaling up, which brought us to this legendary release called Kimi K3 that is based on KDA. Another key design choice they have made here is definitely replacing the standard residual stream with something called attention residuals. I have a more in-depth video about it, but in short, attention residuals lets each layer use softmax attention over earlier layer outputs. So instead of receiving the same fixed sum of every previous computation, a layer can selectively assign more weight to whichever earlier representation operations are actually useful for the current token. You can think of it like applying attention across the model's depth rather than only across its token sequence, providing stronger learning dynamics for the model. On the other hand, there is also the ridiculous scale of the model itself. This is the first ever 2.8 trillion open weights that has ever existed. Before this, I'm pretty sure there are only 4 trillion class models, 2 of them are 1.6 trillion and 2 that are around 1 trillion. So this model size is definitely a sight of its own. It of course uses MoE with 896 experts while activating only 16 of them for each token. This is extremely sparse, but not as sparse as DeepSeek v4. But to make an MoE this sparse practically, especially at this model size, they use something called a stable latent MoE, which is a pretty common design nowadays. So in a normal MoE, each token has to send its full hidden state to whichever GPU hosts the selected expert. And when you have hundreds of experts, moving all that data becomes expensive, right? So what latent MoE does is it compresses the hidden state before sending it to the expert, then expands it back afterwards. So K3 moves much less data between GPUs. And the stable part of this basically just keeps the routing balanced, so a few experts do not become overloaded while others sit unused. On the other hand, we did get some pretty interesting demos from them, especially this one where they had Kimi K3 optimize its own GPU kernel for attention residuals. So Moonshot AI's researchers straight up gave it the production-sized attention residuals kernel used by the model, then allowing K3 to work on it autonomously for up to 24 hours, including repeatedly profiling the kernel, changing the implementation, benchmarking it, and continuing from the results. After around 15 hours of non-stop iterations, it designed a new two-phase algorithm, fused multiple operations together without changing the numerical results, and reduced the operation time from 283.6 milliseconds down to 114.4 milliseconds, which is almost a 60% speedup from their original kernel. With its final performance being close to Claude Fable 5 and achieving roughly the same result trends across all other kernel benchmarks, Kimi K3 is actually just an incredible model. Another notable aspect of Kimi K3 is its top-tier visual-related generations. From generating HTMLs like websites and landing pages, coding 3D games and game engines, to making a complete slide deck for research and infographic-style presentations, I'm just speechless. Like, these are just way too good. Not only that, it can also generate 3 blue 1 brown style visuals too using MoonEP, so coding visualizations is definitely its strong suit. However, Kimi is also not perfect. In fact, they release block sets of themselves, and I just love how transparent and humble they are with it. Number one is how Kimi K3 needs its thinking history fully intact in order to function well. This might be related to how strong they are at the model, and the thinking process plays a key role in helping the model improve its performance. Number two is how it will start assuming things if the user's intention is unclear, because the model is trained specifically for long horizon and autonomous tasks. This is a very interesting behavior, and one that I did not think was gonna backfire when you focus on training something to be autonomous. And lastly, they mentioned how despite being a highly competitive model overall, K3 nonetheless exhibits a noticeable gap in user experience compared with Claude Fable 5 and GPT 5.6 Sol. And this is rather surprising because it shows that they are admitting there exists a gap in eval for vibes, or at least the user experience, compared to the proprietary frontier, which is a rather fascinating point for them to bring up. And as of July 27th, they have fully open sourced the weights, a company with 47-page technical report sharing more in-depth details about the model. First of all, this model has 2.5 times more scaling efficiency than their previous Kimi K2 series, thanks to all the new architectural advances, refined data, and training recipes. And the report shared that K3's post-training was also utilizing multi-teacher on-policy distillation, just like most of the latest open weights. This means they trained 9 specialized models across coding, general agents, and surprisingly, different reasoning efforts ranging from low, high, and maximum. They then merged all 9 back into one model, allowing K3 to dynamically scale how much reasoning it uses. Another clever thing they did is they trained it across many different agent environments that could imitate Kimi Code, Claude Code, Codex, OpenClaw, and Hermes. So rather than overfitting to one tool format or agent harness, K3 is made to be adaptable across them. Its visual capabilities were also trained natively from the beginning. Instead of attaching an existing SIG lib vision encoder afterward, Moonshot Moonshot trained Moon VITv2 completely from scratch alongside the language model using next token prediction. And surprisingly, this was much more stable and still matched the pre-trained division baseline. The million token context was not achieved by simply changing a rope setting either. K3 uses no explicit positional encoding and was progressively trained from 8k to 64k, then 256k, and finally 1 million tokens, including synthetic tasks where the required information was intentionally scattered across the entire context. To make inference more efficient, they also designed post-training around actual deployment, just like what DeepSeek v4 did. K3 uses quantized aware training with MXFP4 expert weights and MXFPA activations, while its pre-training prediction layer was converted into an Ego3 speculative decoding model that was directly trained to maximize how often its drafted tokens would be accepted. And lastly, they also open source infrastructure codes just like DeepSeek. Their MoonEP system dynamically replicated overloaded experts so every accelerator received the same amount of work, while their agentic RL system could suspend and resume long-running micro VM environments without losing their state. This is a huge improvement over DeepSeek's DeepEP, and that was already largely adapted in the industry. So K3 was not really just one isolated breakthrough, it's a bold, deliberate, and ambitious scaling run that not only tries to make the model as performative as possible, but also as cheap as you can run it. And funnily enough, just like how badly Chinese AI labs are export controlled, which caused them to be kind of GPU poor, they had to pause new subscription signups just to concentrate the compute for existing users. Not only that, they also had to make different usage type subscriptions to better allocate GPUs for dedicated power users versus people that use Kimi more casually. But yeah, this Kimi K3 release is just incredible. It got the frontier lab sweating bullets and brought the cost frontier for intelligence down yet again. Do you like using it so far? Let me know down in the comments. And if you want to learn more about how LLMs work much more in depth without being overwhelmed with math, you should definitely check out my latest project, Intuitive AI Academy, where it contains an intuitive explanation of all modern LLMs from the ground up, including a lot of technical topics like distillation, which I just mentioned in this video. We cover everything from the basics like the transformer architecture all the way to more advanced topics like LoRa, mixture of experts, and RLHF. And we also just added a new advanced chapter on optimizers, which will bring you all the way from the classics to the current frontier techniques. So whether you're a student, software dev, founder, or just someone trying to pivot into AI, Intuitive AI Academy gives you one clean place to build real technical intuition. And you can use the code LOCKIN for 35% off on a yearly membership. And thank you guys for watching. A big shout out to Spam Madge, Chris LeDoux, Deagan, Robert Zawiasa, Marcelo Ferreria, Poof and Inu, DX Research Group, Alex, Midwest Maker, and many others that support me through Patreon or YouTube. Follow me on Twitter if you haven't, and I'll see you in the next one.